Me today. I read a pretty cool article and I just wanted to share it with you. But I also, this kind of coupled with the fact that I watch shows on, different streaming networks and so forth, and so many are showing violence that was related to infidelity. Even watched a Dateline recently that was filmed in this area that was related to this, and so many different shows and true crime things. And so it did get me thinking, particularly after reading this article, is that, there are kind of psychological tests that can predict this. Now, of course, we don't just use one assessment to label somebody. We need to be looking, at multiple methods and assessments, clinical interviews, and so forth. But if I were a marriage counselor, there is some evidence that we could use this to at least initiate discussion, between counselors. Between clients who are maybe doing some premarital counseling or in your office for other reasons. And we're looking at the 5-factor model, okay? And I'll put the author's name below, as well as a public domain assessment you can use to test for this. But the 5-factor model has 5 main domains: open-mindedness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, for the acronym OCEAN. Now, here's what they found. There are different assessments to try to predict infidelity, looking at dark triad traits, and also looking at the 5-factor model just kind of in general, the 5-factor domains. But what they did in this article is they essentially drilled down and said, you know what, there's actually 2 facets. Because of the 5 domains, there are 6 facets under each domain. And what I mean by facet, one of these, for under extroversion, there are 6 facets that make up the total score of extroversion. And one of those is called ascendant, which this confuses me sometimes, but it's actually sometimes called assertiveness. But this is the characteristic of folks that score high in the ascendant facet of the extroversion domain. Dominant, forceful, social ascendant. Ultimately, the way I look at this, they feel like they're better than others. They feel like they can take charge, take leadership, and they do often take leadership positions. Okay, so what they found is that higher ascendant scores were a better predictor of infidelity. And then they also found with conscientiousness that dutifulness, which is adhere strictly to their ethical principles, that high dutifulness scores were actually a predictor of not committing infidelity. So, if I were looking at this with a client, and let's say they had high ascendant score, meaning, a T-score of 60, so they were a standard deviation above the mean, and they had a high dutifulness score, well, there's discussion that can be had. If it was high ascendant and low dutifulness, okay, this would be a predictor, a potential predictor. Again, we can't just use one source when doing these measures. If it was high dutifulness and low ascendant, okay, maybe we're looking at somebody who's going to be a little safer. And particularly, again, as I look back on just the violence associated with infidelity that keeps getting shown on all these shows. So I just wanted to show you that this is what psychology can do. There are actual personality assessments out there that can at least give us information that can initiate discussion between people to determine what might be going on in a relationship or what could be potential pitfalls. All right, let me know if this is helpful, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. I've got something exciting lined up. All right, talk to you soon.